okay, I've said before, look, I'm not a politics guy. I'm not a politics guy. I've got my views, but I keep them to myself. You know, the minute I say I like this dude, or I don't like this dude, or I like this dude and I don't like that, you know, half of you are just going to unsubscribe. So I keep it to myself. But I found this story on guitar.com. You can go and check it out on guitar.com if you want. I'm sorry. I was reading this story and I was like, this, it looked like some kind of April Fool. So I just thought I'd share it. The electric guitar is an American cultural export, NAMM CEO John Milchak, on why Fender, Gibson, PRS and others joined forces to lobby Congress over wood tariffs. The head of America's Music Trade Association is leading the lobbying efforts to try and reduce the potentially damaging effects of US import tariffs on tone wood. I'm sorry, but what? We've been through this. Tone wood, unless it's on an acoustic guitar, I'm not getting involved in this argument. I'm not wasting time with this argument again. You know my views on tone wood. Like I say, if it's an acoustic guitar, you know, and you know that's what gives the guitar its sound, then fair enough. The kind of wood, the thickness of wood, and all the rest of it will affect the, the sound of the guitar. But on an electric guitar, you know, you've got your strings, you've got your pickups, you've got you've got the bridge, you've got the spring. There's so many things that affect the tone on an electric guitar. And before you jump in the comments and say, yeah, but if you listen to a PRS, before you plug it in and you play it acoustically, you can hear the tone. Yeah, that's fantastic. That isn't what goes through the pickups, though, my friend. So yeah, I'm not arguing about tone wood again, but yeah, this article, it kind of blew me away, and I've got an opinion on this. I'd like to share it. Since Donald Trump took office for the second time in January, his administration has used executive orders to enact sweeping changes to the way USA trades with the rest of the world, most notably using hefty tariffs on the import of goods into the United States from countries around the world. While the impact of these tariffs has been felt across the American economy, the guitar industry seems to be especially keenly impacted. I mean, does it? Does it really, compared to all the other industries? You know, has the guitar industry been even more impacted? And if so, why has it been so impacted? I think that's what you need to look at. Over the last few weeks on guitar.com, we've been covering the devastating impact of these new tariffs. Well, I think we know which way this website is leaning. On America's thriving boutique effects industry, dozens of makers told us how their businesses were teetering on the brink of collapse as a result, and explained why the long-term goals of bringing certain industries to America from China and elsewhere would come too late to save them. Now, look, I totally get it. With things like pedals, it's a fact of life that a lot of the components and stuff do come from overseas. And listen, I'm not downplaying the tariffs or anything. And I do hate to see anybody go out of business, be it guitar maker or whoever. It's not cool. But yeah, I mean, I get it why, the pedal makers and stuff and amp makers and stuff are struggling, because a lot of those components do come from China, and they're just not made in the US of A. And for the USA to develop the kind of infrastructure that can churn out the same amount of components that they get from China, it will take a long time before that happens. I get that, but we're talking about wood. But what about the guitars themselves? On the surface, US-made guitars are less keenly impacted by the tariffs on electronic components from places like China. But what about wood? The awkward reality is that huge amounts of tone woods that are used in the construction of US-made guitars come from outside of the US. Do they? There's a significant problem with the American guitar industry as a whole, and it's led by the NAMM CEO John Milchak to spur his organization. I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. To spur his organization into action. Milchak has spoken out several times about the threat these tariffs pose to the industry and called for musical instruments to be exempted from tariffs. But he's also been working behind the scenes. Back in May, him and Nam went with a delegation of key figures from the US guitar industry representatives from Fender, Gibson, PRS, Martin and Taylor to Washington DC. The aim was to meet with congressional representatives and try to help them understand the situation. Now, I get it. Like I said, I do get it. For acoustic guitars, yeah, the wood is, it's one of the things that gives that guitar its sound. I'm sorry, the rest it's just nonsense. It's the pickups, it's the string, it's the way you play it. Tone wood. Wow. Okay. It was an unusual and striking move to see the biggest players in the American guitar industry move on, so that now the dust is settled, we caught up with Milchak to find out why he felt the mission was an important one. I mean, of course we know why he felt it was an important one. I don't know, he must obviously believe in tone wood. But I mean, you have trees in America. I know, I've seen them. You've got giant redwoods and shit. You've got some great trees. Fucking tone wood. I think my problem with this is, and to a degree, I get it. I'm not just crapping on tone. I am crapping on tone wood, but I'm not crapping on this. So as far as I understand, please feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this. But in America, with the way politics works, you have lobbyists. So what they'll do is they'll go and speak to like governors or senators or the people who make these decisions regarding laws and stuff, and say to them, look, this is what should happen, and this is why you need to make sure that this law does this, and and I kind of get that, but I don't know. I think one of the problems is that this is about guitars, okay? I'm a guitar, so I'm going to talk about guitars. And, these guys are lobbying Congress. I think that's right. These guys are lobbying Congress about guitar manufacturers. But, I mean, how many other, industries in America are being hurt by the tariffs? And I don't know, it's really weird. It's like one of those things that if you make an exemption for one, so say you make an exemption for the guitars, then, well, surely we need to be making an exemption for car makers, or we need to be making an exemption for people who build RVs, or, and look, I'm not saying I agree with the tariffs. I'm not saying I disagree with the tariffs. I don't live in the US, so they don't particularly affect me. To be honest, I don't know enough about the tariffs anyway. I'm not a US citizen, so don't think I'm all for the tariffs or I'm all against the tariffs. But what I'm saying is the tariffs are there, they're the law. But if you make an exemption for guitar makers, then you're gonna have to make an exemption for guys who build motorcycles and guys that build computers, and if you give an exemption to one group of people, then you've got to give them to all the groups of people. And then it's like, well, why have you got tariffs? I don't know. I said, this dude, he must just agree with tone wood, and I don't agree with tone wood. Fight me in the comments. So yeah, I just thought I'd share this story. I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts on it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. If you want to help support the channel, I've got some merch for sale. I've also got super chats and memberships. Anything bought from them really helps out, and just goes back into helping the channel. Anyway, thanks again. Take it easy. Peace out.